And Secretary Wolf, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate your time. You resigned from your post on Monday, and there's been a lot of explanation about what your resignation was all about.
Sure.
Can you clear up some of that? We've heard a lot of reports. Was it about these legal issues around your authority as Acting Secretary of Homeland Security, or was your resignation on Monday a resignation in protest of the president's conduct last week during the assault on the Capitol?
Well, sure. It's absolutely. My authority was a big part of that. And as you know, the Acting Secretary's authority has been under litigation, not only my authority, but my predecessor, the Acting Secretary, his authority under litigation for over the last several months. We had a legal process. We had a legal strategy that wasn't working. We had another nationwide injunction last Friday, another court questioning the authority as the Acting Secretary. So I thought as we went into the transfer of power, the last several days of this administration, still a lot to do for the Acting Secretary, that it didn't need everything that I was going to decide, sign out, or talk about be open to litigation. So I wanted to make sure I put the department the best foot forward as it moved forward. And that's why I felt at that time it was time for me to step down as acting.
So to be clear, you were not resigning in protest over the way the president behaved last week?
No, not necessarily. Although I have been very vocal and very specific about the events of the 6th, about my disappointment at the time with the president not being more vocal about denouncing the type of violence that we have seen. And from my perspective as acting secretary, and we saw violent activity throughout the summer, and the department, myself personally, been very vocal about calling out violence. So I wanted to make sure that I did that on this case, on the 6th, as the events unfolded, because violence is violence, whether it's on the left, the right, or anywhere in between. And I wanted the administration to be out there as well. And I felt as that day went on, the administration lost the moral high ground in some sense regarding what we had done and said throughout the summer.
Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about what went wrong on the 6th, but as we stand here right now, we are in what is essentially an armed camp in downtown Washington, D.C. There are checkpoints on every street. There are troops out visibly patrolling downtown Washington, D.C. right now. You've had access up until this week to the highest level of domestic intelligence about what the threat is. We've seen the president-elect now forced to cancel his inauguration rehearsal on Sunday, postponing that for security concerns. He had to cancel the ride into Washington on Amtrak for security reasons. Right. What's the threat level right now, and do you think there is a threat to the life of the president-elect right now?
So again, all the presence that you see out in D.C. today is really the result of DHS moving up the NSSE, which is the National Special Security Event, which is a designation for the inauguration. That was supposed to start on the 19th. One of my last acts was actually to move that up to the 13th. So it started earlier this week. And so that's why you see the increased presence. And that was a result of not only last week, but we have a number of permitted events. The Park Service has a number of permitted events here throughout this weekend that we were concerned about as well. So we wanted to put those measures in place this weekend and not wait until the 19th so that you could have the right manpower, the right law enforcement footprint here throughout the 20th, throughout the inauguration. So I'm very confident that we've got great law enforcement professionals. Secret Service is in charge of that. There's a command and control function there, and they're going to do well in that.
In your judgment, though, is there a threat to the life of the president-elect right now?
Well, again, I'm outside of that, no longer acting secretary. But what I do know is there's an increased level of chatter, certainly, because of the events of last week. DHS this morning said there's no credible, specific threats to the National Capital area or to the inauguration, so I'll certainly take them on their word at that. But what you see and feel and certainly hear as you walk around D.C. is that heightened level of alert and awareness, and I think Secret Service is not taking taking all precautions, not taking any risk or any chances. And what you'll see here with the inauguration, obviously, just because we're in a COVID environment and President-elect Biden has chosen to have a different type of inauguration, not really a parade, so different other activities. And the events and the security is having to adapt to that. So it's going to feel a little differently because of the type of COVID-like inauguration that we're having.
Let's talk a little bit about the 6th. I mean, we saw the Capitol Police out there with bike racks, immediately overwhelmed by this massive crowd of tens of thousands of people storming the Capitol. What went wrong there in the planning? You know, a lot of the Capitol Police battled heroically and did their best, but they were simply outmatched. Why was that?
Yeah, well, let me just say, again, to all our law enforcement officers that day, including the Capitol Police, I think they did an outstanding job given what they had at the time. It's a good question. Again, the Capitol Police had the same intelligence, had the same information as the Department of Homeland Security, as the Department of Defense, Department of Justice. And I know from a DHS perspective, we mobilized a number of our assets to protect federal buildings that we are in charge of in D.C. And so Capitol Police should have been doing that as well. If they had a plan, it was not executed. You mentioned the bike racks. For 25 to 35,000 people, that's just not going to cut it. That should have never been in place. They should have had higher protective measures in place. And I think there's an investigation going on what happened on the Capitol complex. I should note, Capitol Police is wholly responsible for that Capitol complex. They answer to Congress. They don't answer to the executive branch. So while we do coordinate with them, as we do with all our MPD and other federal law enforcement here in the district, the Capitol complex is their jurisdiction and their responsibility to put a plan in place to protect that building.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.